Okay, I'm gonna cut this. I'm gonna cut this tile trim on a 45, and then I'll show you how you set up your speed square and how this cut is made. Okay, so but first we're going to make this cut, and no further ado, let's do this. Okay, and for the face shot. All right. Now, I lost my live stream last time I went to part one. I showed you how to lay it out on the wall, and we'll walk you back through that. But first I got to get this in position for the cut. All right, I've got my pencil line right here. It's kind of faded out at this point, but it's right there. Okay, I'm going to mark this right there. Okay, I'll show you here. We've remarked it, and we want it to come back this at this angle. All right. So we just draw a pencil line here, so we know what the direction we want it to go in. All right, now I'm going to line that up with the saw. All right, and that pencil line is right here, so I'm going to get it right in front of that saw blade. All right there. Okay, now we're going to make this cut, then I'll explain it. All right, this is what nobody shows you. Now, you do not want this to move, and I just moved it. All right, you do not want that to move. You want to lock that in place and make your cut. All right. Right there. That ought to be good. Okay. Okay, now let me show you how this cut was made. All right. I will show you how I set the saw up to cut this. All right. There's the 45. Okay. Now, how I use the speed square, I'll explain the process for setting up this speed square. So let's bring this down here. All right, now there are, for those that don't know, there are degrees on this speed square. All right, and I had to have a block underneath that my clamp was held onto. Now on this bottom of this edge, okay, you have degrees. All right, there's 45 right here. All right, now what you do is you pivot this at this point. All right, it even has this pivot right here. All right, and it's pointing to this corner. So everything pivots here. All right, now this would be a 90. All right, in the cross, that's a 90. All right, so everything's based off of a 90. All right, here, for example, this to this is a 90. Half of that is 45. Okay, now so we're pivoting. Okay, we get this in the right angle, and we're looking down here, and we're pivoting. Okay, let me show you here. All right, so we bring it up. All right, 35, 45, right there, right with that edge. Okay. Now we get that in line with that edge, then we clamp this down. All right, we get this clamped in place so it doesn't move. Then we take our trim or your piece of tile, all right, and you slide it and you get it positioned, whether you need to bring it back further on your table because you have to make room. All right, let me show you here. You have to make room so that your trim is set up where it's going to meet the saw. Okay, so you have to get it set at your 45. Okay, bring your trim up against it. And then how's it going to run? Now, we also have limited space here, so it has to run off the edge of my table. All right? So you have to consider all that, and you just got to work with it. So you get this adjusted here at the best location where your trim's going to fall in line with the blade at a 45, okay, where it's going to get cut at that angle, okay? And that's really all there is to it. Whether you're using tile, all right, like here's a 45 I created, doing the same thing, okay? That's a left and right. So it's really that simple to create a 45. Now, if I'm gonna keep this stationary, all right, it's at a 45. I don't want to move it. I cut one side up. On the other side, I would flip it over this way, which makes it more complicated. Which means now you got to fill in this gap here. You got to fill that gap in. But I'd have to flip it over so it goes in reverse. Because if you notice here at the saw, when I flip it over, check this out. At the blade here, okay, when I flip it over, the cut's in reverse. I have a reverse cut, which means I can now cut the left side. Cut the side that's going to join this after it's cut. That's if you don't want to move your angle. Otherwise, you have to take this, reposition it to the other side, and reset it up, okay? And so if I was to cut it like this, I would have to take a couple pieces of tile or something, okay, that I could put underneath here to keep this level, all right? And this would require another piece of tile, for example, okay, to balance it out. So here I am sticking another piece of tile. It might be too thick. Well, it is too thick, okay? So then you have to start playing with cardboard or maybe a paint stirrer or something to fill the gap so that this is level when it's cut, all right? And that's by flipping it over. Otherwise, if you bring it back the right way, the way it's designed to cut over here, see, then you're now in line with the blade and it's cut. I'm hoping that makes sense because it reverses the angle when you flip it over. All right, and you want to make sure it's level when you do that. If you're using tile, on the other hand, okay, I can take this tile and I can cut, get it set at the 45, and I can cut it, all right, and I'm perfect. Now, if I had a long piece, I could flip it over, all right, bring it across, and now I would have the left side to meet the right side, and just flip it over, and it would join, and it would be fine, okay? Like we have here, for example. All right, here's the other side here. If I cut that in reversed, I would now have a 45, okay? But I cut it, flipped over, all right? And then then it would join. That way you can keep everything on one side. You don't have to move stuff around. But it can get a little complicated. I hope that's clear as mud. No, I hope that's clear. If it's not clear, just let me know. All right, so now let's go back to the drawing board. Now let's go back to the vanity, back to the master bathroom. Well, we can show you where this is going to fit. All right. And how this is going to work. Okay. Now, Thanks for being here. Appreciate your time. I hope all is well on the home front. This coronavirus is some mean stuff, and I believe the Steve's essential oil may be could be a help to this virus going around. With that Steve's essential oil, and I believe possibly we need to get some doctors checking it out, some biochemists doing some trial runs, and verify my theory here on this Steve's essential oil. I have several videos on it where I'm talking about it, and so let's get this turned around here where you can see what I'm doing right here. All right, 1 second. Okay, let there be light. Okay, now. Sorry for that face shot. Let's turn this around. Okay, there we go. Now, let's see how that's going to play out. Now, what I showed on part 1 is I showed you this right here. It's out 3/4 of an inch because the trim is 3/4 inches wide. So we follow that up. That's for the trim that goes here on the outer edge. And then this one I just cut for this top edge. All right, so there's a long point that we measure to. From the bottom up, we measure to the same point, okay? Now, let me show you how this is going to work. All right. This is going to go in here. Okay. That's going to go right down in there. Okay, I've got this bent where I cut it. Now I got to straighten this out. Just right here. All right. Get that straightened out. Got the edge. I've got this edge here. I may have to take some sandpaper to it. Ultimately, I'm just going to try to get this in there so you can see it in place. All right, so you can get an idea of what this looks like. But I'm having to flatten this out here. All right, so this is how this works. And this goes right in here, just like that. This gets pressed down. Okay, the short point goes right down to this outer edge of this tile right here. All right. Okay, let's get that. That's where it goes. All right. And it's almost there. Got to work it a little bit. Okay. Now, let me show you what this is going to look like up close and personal. It needs a little bit of adjustment. Okay, so it's a tad long. I'm going to have to cut some of it off. But there's the long point. Look, there it is. Okay, right there. Okay, it needs to go back a little bit more and it'll fall right in place. It's just a tad long. And so we'll make those adjustments. Then the next I'll measure from this point down to the vanity top here, up to this long point. All right. And the 45, the short point will take care of itself. You just measure to the long point from one end to the other, then from the long point down to the bottom of the cabinet here, and cut your 45, and it will be right in place. And that's how you do that. All right. So remember, easy 2 tips and tricks where you see everything up close and personal. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And Thieves Essential Oil by Young Living. I'm not saying it's a cure-all. I'm just saying I think it will play a part if these doctors, and it may be, if you put a canopy over the bed, a bed tent where it's pumped in, or some antiviral, antibacterial type oils, or breathing the vapor 24/7, that may be a possible end-all, maybe. But we need to get doctors, respiratory therapists, biochemists, chemists involved with this. And that may be the solution, because if it's antiviral, antibacterial, and it's penetrating and saturating the coronavirus, it's going to absorb this antiviral, antibacterial vapors, and it's going to start killing it from the outside in. And this may be the solution, possibly, but we need to get doctors, chemists, like I say, respiratory therapists. We need to get a group of people on this and then doing some testing to see. But I hope somebody hears this, some of my other messages on it as a possible solution. If we can get some doctors to work with this, get a team of people on it. And I look forward to hear from you. So bye for now. God bless. Take care and never give up. Because there's always a way. Always. We have to find out what that way is. And keep looking up. This is going to pass. We're in the midst of the storm, but it's going to pass. All right? So hang on. Bye for now. Bye. And keep looking up.